Hey everyone, welcome to Youth Bombs. I'm Craig.
I'm Holden.
I'm David.
I'm Carson.
And we're the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. Last week, JD Vance and Tim Walz held the first and only VP debate of 2024. I watched it with Holden at my house, and it was certainly an interesting one, much different than the presidential debate, and certainly a different tone there. Holden, how did you feel about the debate?
I mean, there's just so much there about the debate. I think that it's just JD Vance probably. I'd say it was pretty even. Like, I don't think anybody really came out with the victory, but JD Vance, even though I think he performed relatively well, like in the public's eye, he really scares me, to be honest. I think he's really dangerous. I think that, I mean, he doesn't even pretend to like capitalism, really. He just, he talks about how the government needs to be involved in all this different stuff. They need to fund IVF treatments. They need to to tell people they can't. They need to be off work. Tell companies that that kind of stuff. He wants the government to do all this stuff in the economy, and I saw that they were agreeing. Like Walz and Vance, if you actually watch the debate, they just started agreeing. Yeah, we agree on so much. So I mean, I think that the only real difference is, I mean, he's blaming stuff like, houses are going up because of immigrants. And then Walz says, oh, housing's going up because corporations are buying them. And both of those are just not true. And, that's like where we are, I see with the debate. So that's where and also I just wish the format was different. The 2 minutes each, it's just crazy. How are we having conversations about the healthcare system, the economy, climate change in 2 minutes? We can't have a serious conversation in 2 minutes. So those are some of the observations I made.
Interesting. I do think you have a point there about the 2 minutes. It's sad that we have a lot of people who only have the attention span for just a brief blip on each issue. But you mentioned there being a lot of similarities between JD Vance and Tim Walz. And while they did admit to agree on some things, I think that the differences in this election couldn't be starker. I don't think that we've necessarily had a bigger difference between tickets in modern history. Carson, what did you think?
Well, I generally agree with Holden. I thought that they were pretty similar. I would say that the way they communicate was very different. Walz's appeal on the ticket, and the reason that Harris chose him, is because he doesn't come off like a politician, right? You have this, Harris tries to present herself more as an academic. Walz is the not politician. And so I think in that regard, of course, Vance won the debate because he is the academic in the room. And I do think that Vance did a much better job at posing his idea of Trumpism and populism and all of that, some form of conservatism. But overall, Vance and Walz both came out with net favorable increases. So I think, they definitely both benefited from that debate. And overall, they both did come off different in the rhetoric, but similar in the actual talking points.
That's a good point about the net favorable, unfavorable. They both did benefit from the debate, and about 80% of voters said that they felt the tone of the debate was positive. So certainly a contrast from the presidential debate, which people did not like due to the argumentativeness of the debate and just the way it was structured. David, how did you feel about this?
I think that Vance did what he was supposed to do because Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have been putting Vance as a radical candidate since the very beginning. They've been calling him weird, and they've been trying to make Americans seem like JD Vance and President Trump are too radical for the U.S. So what Vance had to do was to come to the debate and seem normal and seem like he wasn't radical at all. And he came thanking everybody for watching debate, and he just seemed very, very normal, very rational, and there was also a lot less polarization in debate, which paints the Trump campaign as a much less radical campaign, which I think would help the Trump campaign get swing voters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think a standout moment for me was when the moderators tried to quote unquote fact check, even though it was a fake fact check at the end of the day, JD Vance, where they were arguing about the issue of immigration. And one, the moderators weren't supposed to interject in that manner at all. Those were the rules of the debate. So they violated their own rules. And they're not going to do that to Walz, while they are going to do that to Vance, just as they argued with Trump in the presidential debate. But I think it was interesting how they basically admitted after Vance stated, yeah, basically with the stroke of a pen, they've quote unquote legalized these people in Springfield, Ohio. And they basically admitted, like, yeah, you're right. So, Holden, how did you see that interaction?
I don't know. I mean, they clearly are fact checking the Republican candidates more. There's clearly a bias in the media that's against the right, I guess. So you just see that, and then the right gets all excited. Oh my God, look, we got to overcome all this kind of stuff. So that's more of what I see.
I think that's something else that I like what Vance did, is that instead of really complaining about it, he chose to overcome. Usually, what I see Republicans do is they just complain about it, and they don't do well in the debate, or they don't do well as they were supposed to do, and then they just say that's because the media and everything is against us. But Vance made the decision to overcome, and I think that looked really well on him.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He overcame. He wasn't going to let them stop him, and he got his point out, whereas sometimes you just get drowned out by the moderator or your mic muted, which they did at one point, because they don't want to make the right look good, and that's what these networks are about at the end of the day. You just see the bias. Carson, would you agree that there's a left-wing bias to the media, or disagree?
I think that in most mainstream medias there is a establishment left-wing bias. I wouldn't say like left-wing just because my brain automatically goes to socialism, but like for the establishment left, certainly. And the other thing is, I think that really the only debate that didn't feel biased was the one back in June. But both the presidential and vice presidential debates did come off as biased. And although I disagree with Vance on that particular issue where he was fact-checked, I don't think they should have done any fact-checking, especially if they agreed beforehand not to do any fact-checking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. They complain about, the candidates spoke, 2 seconds over their time, but the moderators can't even follow one of the basic rules that they set up. Do you think that the country, Holden, would benefit from another vice presidential debate, given that many people saw this debate as positive? Or do you think that we're kind of done with the debates, we don't need any more, and we're set in stone?
Well, I think if I would like to see them debate, but like have a real debate, not this 2-minute soundbite, TikTok clip type of debate. I would like for them to actually speak on the topic. So if we got that, I think I would love that. I think that would be great, because we would quickly find out that our politicians are incompetent and that they actually don't really understand a lot of the issues that they actually speak on. So I think that would be good. But I mean, this 2-minute, I don't know how much that's going to get us to where we want to be.
Interesting. And we recently spoke about the Lincoln Douglas debate and how you preferred that format, Holden. For the audience who may not know, what was that debate like?
So the opening speaker got 60 minutes in the Lincoln Douglas about a topic, and then the rebuttal for the 60 minutes opening was a 90-minute rebuttal. So, they speak for 90 minutes about one topic, and then there was a 30-minute rebuttal to his rebuttal at the end. So they would talk for 2 hours about one subject, right? And which is just, or over that, which is crazy. I mean, yeah, that was at 3 hours nearly. So yeah, I mean, that's just insane. And the fact that I just would love to listen to those debates. Like, I would love to listen to Lincoln and Douglas debate, because they're both super smart guys. And, I would love to see that. I would die to see that. That would be amazing. I wish they were recorded. I would listen to them all the time, But that's just not where we are. The culture doesn't want that. They just want TikTok sound bites.
Sounds definitely like a much more intellectual version of what we have now, which is, as you said, the TikTok sound bites, the brief clips that people like to watch and say, oh, my candidate owned yours, versus getting the real issues out. Carson, did you feel that the candidates addressed our generation's concerns?
I felt like overall it did a better job at addressing our concerns, but at the same time, or than the presidential debate, but at the same time, the format just does not serve that. And I think, just the fact that the major thing that came out of the presidential debate was they're eating the dogs, eating the cats, soundbite that got remixed on TikTok. It goes to show that there's really been a deterioration of especially young people's attention spans, and I feel like it's being, done purposefully by companies like TikTok to keep you on the app for as long as possible. But that goes into a separate issue. But overall, the format does not serve it. I'm not sure I would like to see the format of the Lincoln Douglas debate either, because I do think that debates should be responsive, but 10 minutes would be way better and would go such a further way than 2 minutes. 2 minutes is absurd. It doesn't promote any sort of actual dialogue.
Right. You can't get into the issues or the meat of the problem in 2 minutes. You can just be vague and give general platitudes. It's not something where you can dig into the facts, which is something that I think many voters would benefit from. David, I noticed in the debate they tried to ask about what they thought were relevant issues, but really these are only going to be relevant if you're thinking from the at least establishment left or left-wing perspective, such as climate change, where they continue to say, for instance, Miami will be underwater in 10 years or however much time, and every time the prediction is wrong. I guarantee you that in 2100, Miami will be above water. David, how did you feel about that?
I think Vance handled it pretty well by talking about more sustainability and how the Trump administration was looking for more sustainable solutions, while the Democratic Party hasn't really been doing much for the environment really at all. And their policies that they want to enact are much too radical.
Understandable. Yes, I think there's a clear difference on energy policy here. Trump has stated and Vance has stated they want clean water, clean air, clean environment without over-regulating the industry. In fact, deregulating in comparison to what the Biden-Harris administration has done. Holden, I want to leave you with the closing thought.
Oh, okay. Well, Trump is better on energy than Biden and Kamala. Kamala is horrific on energy, and she supports the Green New Deal. If you want to save people from the environment, you want more fossil fuel consumption. You want to burn fossil fuels. That's going to make people much more protected by the climate. If you want clean air, you want capitalism, because the air is literally cleaner than it ever has been. Water is cheaper and better than it ever has been. It literally costs half a penny to get a gallon of water from your sink. Half a penny. I mean, that's the world we live in. It's amazing because we burn fossil fuels. The machines they use to make it burn fossil fuels. So we want cleaner air. We want cleaner water. We all want to be richer. We all want to flourish. We need to burn fossil fuels. That's just the reality of the situation. It lifts people out of poverty, and it powers all the machines, like all this podcast equipment. They were burning fossil fuels to make all this stuff. If you want to get rid of that, you'll just throw a bunch of people back in poverty. So if that's what they want to do, that's a fantastic way to do it. So anyway, I could go on about climate change, and I'll definitely do that. I'm gonna talk about it quite extensively here soon. But yeah, I mean, I hope they, they call the Green New Deal like the government spending is investment. Both of them call government spending investment. It's not investment. So hopefully we could get past that kind of stuff, all this nonsense, and we'll have a better future.
Understandable, and I'm certainly on board with an all of the above energy policy without government subsidy. That being said, thank you everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us at youthbombs@alatrorepublicans.com. Thanks so much, everyone.